Hey, thanks for tuning in to Nuts and Bolts with Tone. Today we're going to talk about triple squares. So, triple squares. Socket like this. Okay, Volkswagen, Audi, real common for head bolts too. Toyotas, things like that. So this is the first set I had right here. Okay, and this is a set right here. It was from Matco. So what happened is I had this set, and these ones were starting to get weak, and I rounded off a head bolt because of this socket. It's not very strong. Even though it's Matco, it's not very strong, so it rounded off a head bolt, and I ended up having to get a die grinder and go down inside the head and grind the head bolt off. And then it took forever. I had to hold a bunch of rags to hold the hole, to clean everything up. And so I had another head job coming up, and so Snap-on came in, and so I bought this set. This set was pretty expensive. I mean, you can tell, one socket, the biggest socket is pretty darn big. And then this is the one that I used. I use this for head bolts quite a bit. It's a 14. So it's pretty long. It works. You have to use an adapter for the head bolts. But this was pretty expensive, this set. It was like several $100s for that set. Problem is, so I was doing a Volkswagen, and I had a lot of triple square stuff, and it just couldn't get into the bolts because the sockets are too long. So you have this socket, and by the time you put a ratchet on there, you're talking that's pretty big. And I had some places that, were about that big that I needed to get into, and I just couldn't do it. So I was pretty frustrated. I ended up having to knock bits out of sockets and use wrenches, and it was a real pain. So I was on the search for a triple square set that didn't work like that. So I found this set here. So this set is carbine, and I got it on Amazon. And so if you take this socket, which is pretty tiny, it's real little. So we'll compare it to the Matco socket. It's a 16. So here is the Matco socket, and you can see the difference in how long it is. So these sockets are pretty darn cool because not only do they have a wrench, so you can put a wrench on there. So if it doesn't fit, you can put it in and put a wrench on there and tighten it down. You can also, they have a drive. So you can also put a ratchet on there. Now that, in itself, is the same length as this whole socket with a pretty beefy ratchet. There's a Snap-on ratchet, so it's pretty thick. But these triple square bits are amazing, and they've already helped out. I had a guy borrow it to take out a transmission in a Volkswagen, and there was no room, and he ended up having to use this guy right here with a ratchet, and he was able to get it. But there was no room in the transmission to get anything in there, and I've used it. This little guy right here with a 1/4-inch ratchet is real little. Take a 1/4-inch ratchet, and look at how tiny that is. That's just about the size of using a wrench. It just works really well. This set was pretty cheap. I want to say it was under $20. So that is my recommendation for triple square bits. I would strongly recommend you buy a socket from Snap-on or Matco, Mac Tools, for head bolts, because obviously you don't want to you'd have to adapt a ton of different adapters for this, and then these stripped out. And I'm sure this set would probably strip out if you were doing head bolts. It's not. I didn't buy it for its strength. I bought it for its convenience and how easily it gets into places. But this socket right here, I dropped it, sorry. This socket right here, this number 12, this I've used for head bolts quite a bit. So if you're doing head bolts, buy a real good quality one. But just for access, this set right here. and it is by Carbine, and it's an 8-piece set. It goes from 4mm all the way to 16mm. So my link will be, the link to this will be in the description below on Amazon. And thanks for tuning in to Nuts and Bolts with Tone. Hit the subscribe button and like this video, and check out my Instagram on Nuts and Bolts with Tone. And also let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas, any tools that you would like to see reviewed in the future. I have quite a bit of tools, and we can talk about it. And thanks for tuning in to Nuts and Bolts with Tone. We'll see you next time.